Hey everyone, Ian and I just want to take a quick moment to thank you so much for all the support you're giving our podcast. Our listener base is growing very fast. There's a couple things you guys can do that'll help out even more. If you go to our Instagram and tag friends in our posts, our Instagram is ENG Podcast. Also, if you can go to iTunes and rate us 5 stars and leave a review, that helps us jump up in the listings when people search for anything Bachelor related. And lastly, and most importantly, please follow our friend Bachelor_Nation on Instagram. That's a partner for us, and they're really helping us out. Bachelor_Nation. Thanks so much. Today's episode of the ENG Podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Clothing by Owl. All you Bachelor fans will recognize this name as they are the company behind the hugely popular Wine Bachelor and Yoga Pants tank top. What you may not know is that they give back a percentage of every item sold to Animal Rescue, and that notable Bachelor alums like JoJo Fletcher, Kaitlyn Bristowe, Lauren Bushnell, Ben Higgins, and Nick Vale are all huge supporters. We're happy to offer our listeners 20% off when you visit clothingbyowl.com. Simply add the discount code ENG, that's EANDG, to save on all your Bachelor gear. And be sure to follow them on social media at Clothing by Owl.
Jeff and I are doggy dads, which is why we're so excited to be partnering with our newest sponsor, Puppies Make Me Happy. They have a super simple mission to make the happiest clothes on earth, which they do. And we know our listeners will love this brand just as much as we do. Plus, we're excited to help spread a little happiness ourselves by offering listeners 20% off all merchandise by using discount code ENG. That's EANDG at checkout. Make sure to follow them on Instagram at Puppies Make Me Happy.
Welcome to another episode of a Faboosh ENG Special Interview Edition podcast. We have Jami Letain today. Ian.
Jeff. Jami was awesome, man. I'm glad we were able to make that happen. She was repping Canada, obviously, during the call. We had to chat about Daniel a little bit and former Bachelorette herself, Kaitlyn, who happens to be a good friend of Jami's as well.
Yeah, they said they worked at the same bar when Kaitlyn was on the show. That's interesting.
That was super interesting. And she seems friendly with like a ton of different girls, and she was able to provide us with a bunch of insight into some of the behind the scenes where we saw her most recently in Paradise. So I thought we got a lot out of Jami.
Yeah, we talked about, she was one of the 3 girls, Wells, obviously, just the timing issue. When they came into Paradise, it was, her and Shoshana and Ashley I. She told us a lot of girls she's very close with, seems like she's very good friends with. She also mentioned a couple people you'll have to listen she does not like so much. So it was fun to get her on, and I think everyone's going to enjoy the podcast.
Absolutely, man. I think the other things that our listeners are going to be interested in, and you'll have to wait and hear what she has to say about it, is probably her closest friend, it seems like, is Jen Saviano, who obviously had kind of that heartbreaking finale with Nick. And so just getting a little bit more insight into what potentially went down there was super fascinating. But we wish Jami nothing but the best. We hope to see her back on the franchise again soon. And we know you guys are going to enjoy this interview.
Hello?
Jami, hello. Welcome.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Thanks so much for coming on. So first we want to talk a little bit about your stint on The Bachelor. If you could just kind of recap for our listeners what happened with you on The Bachelor. You didn't get as much time as you'd probably like, correct?
Yeah. I'd say on The Bachelor, I came out, I was really excited. I think Ben and I just got along as friends, and there was no real chemistry there, I guess. We never really kissed, we never really engaged in that kind of romance. Yeah, it was short-lived, which was upsetting. I don't think I really opened up that much either, so.
Well, that's all right. We got a chance to get to know you a little bit more on Bachelor in Paradise this season, yeah. Jami. So thanks again for coming on. Welcome to the ENG podcast. We've had a really good time speaking with everybody in terms of how they first were introduced to the show, how they got on the show. What was behind that? Do you have a story in regards to that? What made you want to apply to be on The Bachelor initially and then be on Bachelor in Paradise?
Actually, I had never watched The Bachelor before until my girlfriend Kaitlyn Bristowe was on it on Chris Soules season, and I just got
Okay.
super hooked.
A
Yeah.
fellow Canadian, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I was cheering on. We were working together at the time, so we all just kind of watched at the restaurant we worked at in Canada, and I got
Perfect.
so hooked. And then when she got Bachelorette, we were like, okay, now we're in for another season. We were
Gotcha.
like happy, but still kind of like, are we really into this show? Like, I don't know yet. And yeah, and then I was just watching the show, and I was like, Ben Higgins looks like such a nice boy. And yeah, it was all uphill from there.
So, what was exactly? So, obviously, you knew Kaitlyn Bristowe. So, how did you go about getting on? Did she just kind of put a word in for you? Did you get to know the producers from just hanging out with her? How'd that happen?
No, actually, I mean, she was definitely an asset because I did know her. But I applied super last minute. I applied when they did Men Tell All. So, like, at that time, they're kind of like winding down their casting.
Okay.
And yeah, I just kind of sent in my photo. I lied. I said I was from the States. And in my bio thing, I was like, just kidding. I'm totally Canadian. And they were like, and then it was like, why should you be on The Bachelor? And I was like, because I'm awesome. And I think that's all I wrote. And then I got called and I thought I was being punked. Like I was like, is Ashton Kutcher gonna jump out right now? And yeah, it just kind of happened. And like they asked me, they were like, so wait, do you actually know Kaitlyn? Because I think everybody says that they know her. And also it's like, do you know John from Canada? Like we somehow all know each other. So
Right. I know
yeah.
Canada's so big, but people in the States think if you're from Canada, you must know everyone in Canada. It's so spread
Honestly,
out.
it's insane though. Like I somehow know someone through somebody. Like it's the weirdest thing ever.
Oh, so you really do. Did did you have to do any? It sounds like your application process was pretty short. Did you have to do any? We talked to some other people. They did videos. They had to send in things or tape themselves with their friends and kind of just to show their personality. Or was your process just sending in that stuff you just said?
Yeah, they ended up calling me later on that week, and then I did have to send in a video, which was like I was living in a hotel working in Kelowna for the summer, so it was like really hard for me to get it all together. It was like really dorky. I was like talking about myself, and then I was like showing all my Snapchat videos that I've saved, like super like narcissistic of me. And yeah, and then I sent that to them, and they're like, "Kate, you know what? Just we're gonna fly you down to LA for testing week, and we'll just go from there."
Okay.
Dang, so it happened fast for you. That's
It was
awesome, though.
really fast, yes.
Totally. So you jumped in Caitlin's season. I have to ask you too, because I'm just very curious. We have Daniel, the Canadian, and also a crowd favorite. I would say I think Bachelor Nation loves them some Daniel, as do we here on the pod. What is The Bachelor like up in Canada? Is it a huge show, like as popular as it is here in the States?
I don't think it's as popular. I think also a lot of people like to hide that they watch it. So, which is like
Guilty
super
pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah, like my mom works with some guys at her work, and instead of calling it like The Bachelor, they'll be like, "Did you watch the news last night?" And that's like a little but definitely like I'll go out and some people will be like, "Wait, you're the girl from The Bachelor, like from Canada." I think it's a bit more downplayed, but I don't know. I think it's like everyone's like guilty pleasure that they're not like as like open about, but I think people watch it, but just not as many as like in the States.
I gotta say though, maybe the numbers aren't there, but it's probably a similar watching habit. That's how a lot of people consume it in the States too, right? It's kind of a guilty pleasure a little bit.
Yeah.
I have to ask you about Daniel, and we don't have to spend a bunch of time on this, but I think it was on one of maybe the after the Rose shows, one of those on Paradise. There was a call that came in, and yet the gist of it was everybody in Canada knows a guy like Daniel. Like Daniel's is one of these people that his personality and everything like that.
Mhm.
Do you agree with that statement? What was your take on Daniel? Did you know him going into Paradise?
Okay, so weird. We're like from because like I was living in Vancouver at the time, and I haven't met him, but I know a lot of people that know him. I don't know about every friend group has that friend. I mean, I think Daniel's a very special and unique individual. I think we all want that friend and are little bits of him, but I don't think anyone can claim being the Daniel in their friend group.
Okay, that's what I thought too. Because when I heard that comparison, I was like, wow, okay, that's interesting. Canada sounds like a fun place. You got to get up
Yeah, it is. We're all very fun loving, but I don't think we're all as out there as Daniel.
there.
Jamie, who from the show, we talked to so many people and there seems like there's a lot of very close friendships from the show, not just kind of like, oh, hey, we were on the show and we like each other, but people really stay in contact. So who are some of the people that you are very close with from Bachelor in Paradise or The Bachelor or whatever, just the entire Bachelor Nation, and who don't you like?
I'll start with the goods. I am very uncomfortably, like, we're too close almost. Like, Jen, I have jokes where it's like me being obsessed with her. When I order at Starbucks, I say that my name is Jen, and it's just like this ongoing weird thing.
Right.
Lauren H. and I are like, we just had an hour-long phone call this morning, so it's another like overly close friendship. And then there's LB. She left on the second week of my season, and Rachel, and also like Shoshana the Russian. I love her. We were both like, we're not from America, so like we get it. We had that like level of like we're, outsiders type thing.
Right.
And Kayla's also really like close to my heart. And you know what? Everyone has to love the twins as well.
Okay, so you had named a couple people in there that Shoshana. So what do you think about Ashley I? Because she called Shoshana Euro trash, I believe, or a hooker. And then she also, who else you just named? Oh, Kayla. And also Ashley I had her thing with Kayla. So what are your feelings on Ashley I?
I'm not a huge fan of Ashley I, which is upsetting because I was really excited to meet her, and I'd met her before the show as well. But I'm super, super protective of my friends. So I was definitely tweeting like Team Kayla and like, I'm going to leave with the Russian hooker. Like, those are my girls. So yeah, I was not a fan of Ashley I.
So another person too, Jamie, I'm sure people that have been watching this series for some time will remember that during Ben's season and specifically during the Women Tell All, that there was a little bit of a confrontation with Jubilee. And Jubilee was gone by the time that you reached Paradise. But what is your guys' relationship like now?
Jubilee and I don't talk like at all. Like zero interaction, not even social media. We're both very big personalities, I think. And so when we started to butt heads, it was like a big like separation type thing. And for me, like, I just don't really like to like waste energy on like the negatives and stuff. So it's like I have so many good friends from that season. So I'd rather focus on them than like hating somebody or disliking them. So we just don't talk. It's just as easy as that.
So is Jubilee, because we've talked to some people that actually like Jubilee, and they say she's just, and Jubilee told us like she just doesn't want to be interviewed, like to come on our podcast. And then we talked to people who are friends with her, and they're like, well, she probably wouldn't be a good interview. She'd just give like one word answers. She's really shy. Do you think she is just shy, or is she kind of unlikable the way, is she misunderstood, or is it kind of like she does things that she shouldn't do?
I think she can just be misunderstood. There was some comments that she made where it was like, you don't know if she's giving you a backhanded compliment or if she's just doesn't know how to express herself, I guess is like a better word, like to kind of describe it. I think that's definitely it. She might have a hard time like expressing herself. So it comes across as like the whole, like when she said she gives resting bitch face, it's like she's not trying to. It's just like that's the way she can come across.
Right.
We were friends like the first couple days in the house, and then yeah, it's just like, like there's 28 females. We're not all going to get along. And I got along with most of them for the rest of the time. So, yeah.
Okay. And just to jump back real quick, because you were close with Kayla, we have talked to some people, and there's also been, Ashley I has said, I guess publicly in some interviews, she hasn't come on here yet, but she said she's going to. But so Ashley I's story about the whole Kayla thing is that Kayla, when the cameras were off, told Amanda just straight up, I don't like Jared, but I'm just like willing to like get engaged to him, and then just for the show, and then like break it off in a couple months. That's her story. We've talked to some other people that said, yeah, that's what they heard too, but they weren't there. So that's your friend. Is there any truth to that, or what's going on with that?
I mean, again, I wasn't there. At the same time, cameras are never off in Paradise, and I'm sure the producers would have loved to have shown her saying that. So for me, that's really hard to believe. And I mean, a woman scorned might make up a few things as well.
Okay. But have you talked to Kayla about that? Because your friend's like, hey, like, did you see what Ashley I said? She's saying to everyone that you said this. Is she just like, oh, that's just BS? Or does she say,
Yeah, Kayla's she's a super classy woman and she just brushes it off. She doesn't give it much thought. I get Kayla. I kind of understand her. She's a sweetheart. I also like have phone chats with her as well, like on the weekly basis. So I don't really believe what Ashley's saying. I mean, either like videotape it or it didn't happen type thing.
okay.
Exactly. It's hard to prove, right? It's kind of like he said, she said a little bit. I think one thing that we can all agree on as we transition into Paradise is that Wells is dead to us too, Jamie. What is Wells doing? What was the relationship like with you guys? It looked to be pretty immediate. You guys had an awesome date that Jeff and I, during another recap episode, were chatting about. It was like a full day that you guys spent together. So what was Wells like? What was that date like? And what is your thought on Wells? We can dive into Wells a little bit.
Yeah, we had honestly like the best date ever. It was so much fun and it was very like molded towards us, which I like really appreciated that the producers did. It wasn't like an awkward date, which I saw like a lot of couples go on. And we ended up having like an insane amount of stuff in common. So it was like really comfortable, really fast, which was great. And then like the whole dating other women thing just kind of came into play. And I was just like, this is all, which sucks because he is like a super nice guy, like really nice, really easy to be around. And like, yeah, I don't know. I had so much fun with him. So I was like, as much as I thought I was like, I'm not going to get the rose, I still kind of was like let down when I didn't get it.
So what kind of made you have that feeling going into the rose ceremony? Because again, when we looked at it, he had been on 3 separate dates. So you, Ashley, I, and then Shoshana as well. But it seemed as though you guys probably had the strongest connection, at least from what the cameras showed. You felt like you were maybe an underdog going into that ceremony. Is that fair?
I don't know. It's really weird. Like even on Ben's season, I remember I turned to JoJo saying, I just have a feeling I'm not getting a rose tonight. Like you just get this like overall feeling. And I don't know, all that day, I just kind of like felt like I'm going home and I was like fully like ready and packed. And I don't know. I think it's hard to say. Like, he could have tossed a coin. Like, he spent equal amounts of time with all of us. So, yeah, he could have really, like, just kind of shuffled a card deck and been like, okay, I'm going to pick her.
So, another thing, too, I have to ask you, because we got to get to the bottom of this. So, Wells, did you watch Wells on JoJo's season?
Yes.
Okay. So, was there an attraction level to him going into Paradise?
Okay, when I actually walked into Paradise, I actually really wanted to meet Chase or Derek, I think his name was. And then it was like, I was like, oh, like, or Wells, like, he was like a cute, like, I was like, he's cute. Like, I also thought he was like 27 or something. So I was like, oh, he's a cute kid. Like, I'm really excited to like see him. And then they made it really easy for me because he was the only one there in the morning. And they're like, your date has to leave. So like, giddy up. So I was like, alrighty. So I asked him on the date. I think his personality is super like attractive. He has a really great smile. Yeah, I don't know. There's just like honestly, when you meet him, like there's just something about him that just like attracts people to him.
Totally. I mean, I think that comes through. I guess the follow-up question I have about Wells then is you guys seem to have chemistry right away. And if you looked at JoJo's season, I think that they had chemistry together, but you'll recall that Wells was the last to kind of make a move and to try to go in for a kiss. And he honestly just felt a little awkward, right? Like, I think people were like, Wells is such a cool guy. Why is he so awkward? So did you get that from him in person? Or do you think that was maybe just how he was portrayed on JoJo's season?
No, I didn't get any like awkwardness from him at all in person. He was really chill, really easy to be around. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just how he was portrayed. 'Cause, yeah, I remember that date with him and JoJo though. And it was very awkward. But again, like, it's like sometimes the dates, like that was a weird date to go on.
True. Yeah, that's true.
What is the actual, I mean, I know it's like a tough show and we've talked to some other people, especially Bachelor in Paradise. This is my first time watching it. A lot of it's timing. And I mean, like when you came in, it just ended up that like you and Ashley and Shoshana, you're all kind of dating the same guy because everyone else is kind of paired up. What is the vibe actually like there? Because, you know, obviously they edit it and they show, oh, these people are hanging out here and these people whatever, and they could, you know, they could make it look like whatever. Are you actually, because like Ian said, Wells seemed to have a really good time with Ashley on the show. What they showed. Then we went on the date with you. It seemed like you guys had this amazing date that was just all day, and they showed people making comments like, "That's like the longest date ever. They're still not back." And you guys seemed to really connect. And so, are you and Shoshana and Ashley? Are you guys kind of like catty towards each other? Or are you guys all friends? That's got to be a weird thing, right?
Yeah. The first day that I was back, Ashley and I were like really chill. We were like hanging out, like making jokes about like sharing the same guy type thing. And then because like Shoshana and I are really good friends, and when Wells and her left on the date, both of them didn't say anything to me. So I even said, I was like, I'm just annoyed right now. Like, it's just like an annoying thing. Like, I know we've dated the same guy before, so I'm like, I don't really care. But it's just like to not be like talked to about it was like kind of frustrating for me. And then I just kind of drank like all day to kind of pass the time.
Well, that's all there really is to do from what we understand, right? I mean, you guys don't have, there's not like a gym at the hotel. It's just kind of like the beach and drinking and food, right?
Exactly.
What is your drink of choice? Hold on. What is the drink of choice?
I am obsessed with tequila right now, so I was very much in my element there. They had this really good, it was like a tequila and like margarita style and like beer style drink that Jorge it was unbelievable. So I tossed a few of those back quite quickly.
Oh, tequila with the beer, was that like Chavela or something?
Yeah, but they had so many different names for it. I think at first they called it actually, I don't know. It ended up being called a Jen at some point. So I loved it because it was my girl Jen's drink. So I was like just drinking them nonstop.
Yeah, my wife's Mexican, and her family's from Mexico. So I know a lot about tequila now that I didn't know before.
Yeah.
A true connoisseur. How long were you in Mexico for, Jamie, just in total?
I was there for 6 days.
6 days. So it went pretty fast for you then, right? How much time did you spend with the group throughout that time?
Only like, I think I only slept there like 3 nights, I think. And when you come in at the end, the couples are already broken up and everyone's kind of over the like, let's have a pool party today. Let's all chill together. Like everyone's tired. You don't really get to sleep because it's not your bed. So everyone's kind of lays out with whoever their human is. So if you're like single, you feel so single.
Right.
Like,
that's what's so challenging about getting there late, right? I mean, and that's kind of what Jeff is saying too. You're at such almost like a disadvantage because you have to go in and essentially blow up someone's relationship to be saved. And it's just kind of, I would imagine, an awkward situation. I have to pause for a second, go back, because I'm pretty sure you said that you were attracted to Derek going into Paradise, right? As a potential to be there. What about Derek stood out to you? Because Jeff and I had some strong feelings about Derek from JoJo's season.
Okay, so in the beginning, I was super attracted to him. Like when he first came, I can't remember what he was like, but when he first came out and I saw his Instagram and he was like singing, I think there was a song, like I don't know what song he was singing. I think it was like an Ed Sheeran song. And he just seemed like super cool. And then until they kind of showed him like freak out at the other guys and get like catty style. But also he looked like John Krasinski. So I was like, hello.
Oh, it does kind of look like John, like a little in the John Krasinski in The Sun, right? A little
like
thicker.
A Brazilian John Krasinski with like blue eyes. So I was like, hey, let's figure what this is about.
Jeez, yeah, man, you saw everything you wanted to see in Derek, I guess. But that's interesting that you said Derek and Chase. They were the guys you're kind of into because those are both like pretty kind of like not thick, but like bigger guys. And then you end up seeing Wells. And I believe you were the one that when on the show they showed you with seeing Wells, and you were so excited to see Wells. And Wells, I used to say to Ian when we were talking about the Bachelorette season, I think Wells is like a good-looking guy, but he's so different than the other people that I can see why he got really popular with the Bachelor fans, because a lot of those guys, not saying they look alike, but they kind of blend together. They're kind of big, muscular, cut, and then Wells is like that hipster-looking thin guy with like the nice smile. So I feel like a lot of girls are like, that's my type of guy. I'm not into these meatheads or whatever they think of the other guys. So do you have a type? Because it seems like you might be all over the place.
I'm so all over the place. As long as you're tall and have a good sense of humor, like I'll give you a shot.
Okay. How tall is Wells?
He said he's 6'1", I think, 6 foot or 6'1", and I was like, okay, that's the shortest I go. So that's great.
Right. Okay. And then, well, how tall are you?
I'm only 5'5", but I have like a severe height complex and I want to be taller and I'm like fascinated by tall people. So I like to surround myself with them.
Yeah, I was shocked just the other day. I texted Ian. I said, "Dude, do you know Ben Higgins is 6'5"? That guy's huge."
Yeah, so like being with it, I was like standing beside him. I was like, this is all I want in my life is like to stand next to someone who's tall all the
I didn't
time.
think he was short, but 6'5" is. I mean, that's pretty tall. It's not 6, 1 or 2. Real quick, I want to ask you. It sounded like you and Ashley were cool at first, and then now you say you're not a big fan. Was there a moment? What exactly happened to where you and Ashley weren't cool anymore,
Um,
at least in your head?
yeah, I think the night of the rose ceremony, basically it's like girls in one area and boys in the other. And we had to kind of all hover in like the same bedroom. And we just kind of got this vibe. Like I remember talking to Shoshana that night and we just got this vibe that like we weren't kind of like welcomed in that room. And it felt like they were like, what are you doing in our area type thing. It was like very Mean Girls-esque, like you can't sit with us.
Oh, geez.
So from then I was just kind of like, all right, like we'll go do our own thing.
How big is that resort? Because I know when the way they film things, they can make things look huge or whatever. Like, have you ever been to like a game show taping? You're like, well, I thought this
Yeah.
stage was enormous and it's tiny.
It's like a decent size because like in order to get from like the swimming pool kitchen area to the bedrooms, you have to like walk onto the beach and then go back up. So like it's a pretty like good stretch, I guess.
Okay.
Very interesting. How was the pizza? I think we have to ask about that too if we're talking about the resort, because Josh Murray obviously
Yes.
loved
He
himself some pizza.
That night I remember because he like was offering us all. He's like, guys, have some pizza. So like me, him, Amanda, and Tiara, the chicken girl, like we're enjoying pizza like together. So it was really good. I totally understand where he's coming from. Like I get that. I'm with Josh on that one.
Okay, so we have a confirmation here. That's important. I like that. So obviously the finale just happened this past week. We saw 4 couples go through the process. 3 of them leave with an engagement. You've mentioned that you and Jen are good friends off camera as well. What was your feeling on watching that? That had to be hard to watch. That was even hard for us to watch, and we don't know her personally.
Yeah, I was throwing stuff at my television. I was losing my mind via like text message with Jen and Lauren and the ladies.
Yeah.
It was, again, I'm super protective of my friends. So watching that was just like, yeah, like insane.
So it was tough. And then I think I even saw maybe in like People Magazine or Us Weekly, one of those magazines, right, that they had continued on a relationship potentially after that. But then when Nick found out he had an opportunity to become the Bachelor, he kind of ended all communication. Is that accurate, or was it over when they left Paradise?
Yeah, I think Lauren H was the one that was mentioning that, and yeah, it's active. They were talking afterwards, so I think that's why all of us were just like no longer fans of Nick, because it was kind of like he was stringing her along, and then he kind of got a better offer, so he left her in the dust.
That's certainly what it felt like, right? Especially when you read that afterwards. And watching Jen especially go first, it was almost like it just made matters worse, right? Because she really opened up. I mean, Nick had walls up. I think everybody could see that. She could see that. But at least she put herself out there, right? And Nick's response had a tinge of phoniness to it, I just got to say, at least to me.
Yeah.
But you guys know him. I mean, you saw him in Paradise. You're good friends with Jen. Like, how did she take his response? Did she think that it was coming from a genuine place, or did it feel a little bit phony?
I actually haven't really chatted with Jen about that. She's another very classy woman, and yeah, so I don't know. She hasn't really opened up too much with us about that, and I wouldn't really want to speak to how she was feeling about that. Personally, myself, I felt like it was phony.
Of course.
It
Yeah,
did
no, that's
look to
fair.
me. I mean, I don't like to say people are phony because you don't know them and you don't know how they actually interact when they're not being phony, so it's hard to tell. But it did look like, I don't know how much she was crying as much as looking into the sun.
Yeah, I mean, my dad messaged me saying, Nick is a terrible actor.
Okay. All right. Were there any other guys there? I know that people were paired up, but if they weren't paired up, it seemed like a lot of girls really liked Brett. Like he seemed to be a really fun, cool guy, good-looking guy or something. What was your take on Brett?
Brett is like so cool and so funny. Like they didn't show like I feel like they made it look like he was like this silent, awkward guy in the corner, but he's actually like super funny. And who else? Grant was pretty funny as well. And like I said in another interview, like Evan is actually a really cool guy. Like not my type, but actually so much cooler than he was portrayed on any show, really.
Right, yeah, we hear that a lot about Evan. What do you think about when Evan went behind, like that time when he wasn't with Carly, and he's like, I'm going to make a play for Amanda, and then he just goes to Amanda and kind of talks shit about Josh Murray, but he didn't really know anything about Josh Murray. He was just like, hey, I heard there's a book. I didn't read it. Heard it's bad, though. You should really, like, it was like a weird kind of forced thing. Was that all the producers kind of just sending him out there with that, do you think? Or it didn't seem like it was his idea.
I have no idea. Like, I wasn't there for that part, so it's hard to say. But, I mean, I could definitely see him warning her on sort of, like, the whole, like, they're both parents level. So, because she's not just, like, entering into Amanda's life, he's entering into her kid's life. So I could definitely see him just, like, being more protective on that level. And he honestly, like, when Shoshana was, like, upset after her date, like, Evan was there being like, it's all right. Like, he's a super nice guy and very caring. So I can see him just being like, hey, just look out type thing.
Right.
That's good to hear, though. I mean, we want to get kind of some of the behind the scenes, right? Because that doesn't necessarily always come through. And so on this same note, I mean, because we said it about Nick, like it kind of came off phony, but it's hard to like make that judgment for certain because as we've talked to other folks, including Leah, which I'm not sure if you have any feelings about Leah, but one of the things she did mention was that they actually lifted comments that she made from her time on The Bachelor and used them during her short stint on Paradise. The producers did, right? Or that when they were editing the show. So they can kind of craft storylines, right? Like with or without you, they can make things happen and they can move forward storylines. Did you feel like that happened to you at all? Or were you pretty fairly portrayed during your time there?
I mean, I think every time I've been like fairly portrayed. I think they missed out on a lot of my amazing jokes that I was saying, but I think the only thing was just when they made me, it looked like I was there specifically for Wells, when in hindsight I was kind of like kind of there for whoever was available and whoever I felt like attracted to at the time.
Okay, and when Ian just mentioned Leah, what is your take on Leah? I was it you on the after the final rose thing? You kind of had a thing with her and said like, "Well, you're a liar" or something. Was that you?
Okay, Leah and I have a really weird relationship, but my thing is just like, if you're gonna be that person that is gonna like go behind someone's back, like own your shit. Like just say like, yeah, I did that. Like and full on say I lied. And so my thing at the after or that. At Men or Women Tell All was just like, don't say you deceived us. Like you straightforward, like lied to her. Like we're not 5 years old. Like you lied. End of discussion. And she kind of like took that really harshly. And she's like, you attacked me. And I was like, no, I didn't. I'm just like stating a fact. Like.
And so, yeah. And I know we're going to go back to Bachelor in Paris, but real quick. So was there any merit to what she said about Lauren Bushnell? Did anyone else feel that way during Ben's season?
No, Lauren Bushnell is another one of my, like, I feel like I'm really good friends with most of the people, but I stayed with Lauren B when I was in LA one time. She's such a sweetheart. She's very genuine and caring. Yeah, like, I could not even see her being fake at all. So that's why I was like, I just knew, I was like, that's definitely, like, you just lied to everybody when you're saying that.
Okay. All right. Now get back to Paradise. Another big kind of storyline of this season was that Vinny and Izzy, who had, the best chemistry, the best relationship. That's why I kind of asked you about Brett, because I agree with you. They did kind of portray that guy like you're just quiet. And I'm always weary of that because they could just not just not show him being funny or being cool and just make everyone else at home go, oh, that guy seems really quiet and lame. Why do all the girls like him, But all the girls are saying, oh, he's so fun, whatever. So what happened? What is your take, especially the way they showed it? Because it really, I think they kind of made Izzy look bad, or did they make her look bad? I don't know, because she did kind of dismiss Vinny as soon as Brett walked in. solely based on the way Brett looked, according to what we saw on TV. And then the second Brett said, oh, you know what, I'm just like not that into it or whatever, she immediately starts crying, talking about Vinny, and then she grabs her suitcase and goes, oh, I'm in it to win it. And it seemed very like kind of truncated and quick. Was that more drawn out than they made it look? And what's your take on Izzy?
Yeah, Izzy's a really cool chick. I mean, the first night of Bachelor on Ben's season, we like vibed because she was wearing a onesie and I brought my onesie. So I was like, let's have a onesie sleepover. And then she unfortunately got let go that night. So when I saw her on Paradise, I was like, cool, I've actually really wanted to hang out with you. And then because I came in when her and Brett like had just connected. So I was like having to get caught up. And that fully confused me, like that situation, because I did hear only like amazing things about Vinny. So I was like, wait, some guy walked in and you just kind of like dismissed Vinny. Like, I'm really confused. I think she just might have handled the situation from what I saw on TV. It was just like she might have just been like she should have told Vinny like, I'm just interested in Brett, or like, yeah, he spiked my interest, but to just fully break up kind of sucked. When she left, it was like all day that she was kind of like sad and missing Vinny. So
but then was it within a day that she was immediately over him and on to Brett? Because that transition, again, when it played back on TV, it seemed very fast, right? To Jeff's point.
She goes back and forth very, very quickly, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, again, I didn't see when she left Vinny to go to Brett. I only saw like when Brett was gone for that day on a separate date. I saw like she was like upset all day and just kind of like kept just thinking about it, like being like, I think I screwed up, like all this stuff. So it's hard to say if she had always like been kind of on like the fence with Vinny or with Brett, just because I only did spend the one full day with her as well.
Totally. And that's totally fair. I mean, you weren't there, so we're just kind of asking you based off of afterwards and hearsay and your opinion. But we chatted with Izzy as well on the podcast. And at the time, her and Vinny were still going strong, but she made it seem as though everything kind of was great and they were continuing on their relationship. So we were pretty shocked, like when all that went down and how it went down. I guess the question for you, Jami, is be honest. If you were with Wells from the beginning and then Derek came coming in, would you have a change of heart? Is that something that you could see yourself doing potentially?
To be honest, no, just because, and I've been told from my girlfriends that I'm like aggressively loyal, so I would just feel too bad. And I think that if I was in a relationship with someone, I wouldn't want to like go on, like if we had established like we went on a date and now we're like actually like it's me and him, I wouldn't have been like, oh, this guy like looks cute coming in, I'm gonna go ditch you for him.
Totally. Okay, well, that's good to hear. That's a good answer. In terms of all the couples, right, so the three that did end up walking away engaged from the show, do you have any thoughts on who you think is going to be successful and who you think makes maybe the best couple?
I don't know. I hope they all work out. I think they all are very, like, they all have their own, like, little quirks, which I find, like, so cute and interesting. The good thing about being left alone for a full day on Paradise was that I got to, like, hang out with all of them, and they were, like, really cool. Carly and Evan, like, complement each other really well, which is, like, the cutest thing ever. And Grant, like, looks out for Lace so much, which is what I was like, oh, this is just, like, stop it. And Josh and Amanda are just like, she's just so tiny and he's so big. So it just looks so cute together. Like I actually had like chats with like Josh about that. And we were just like, it was just like a day of like talking to couples. I felt like I was Dr. Phil and like interviewing all these couples, just being like, and how are you doing? How's Paradise treating you? But yeah, they all seemed like really great. And they all had like these huge smiles on their faces. So it seems like they make each other happy.
So does Evan, did you notice, does he carry like erectile dysfunction pills in his bag? Or are those out? Was he passing them out to the other guys?
I couldn't even like bring myself to ask him about his job or anything. Like I was just like, this is all you're known for. Like we need to make you known for just being like the cool guy, Evan. Like,
do you think it's weird that he spends his time solely working with dicks, yet he didn't get along with Chad?
That is a great one, actually. Yeah, him and Chad. I'm happy I didn't see Chad while I was there, because boy, oh boy.
Did you know Chad from like any of the Bachelor stuff, just behind the scenes? Like, do you guys ever meet?
No, I have never met him. I will definitely never will. Like, yeah.
Okay.
Chad kind of buried himself. He dug his own grave, and then he proceeded to bury himself in his own poop. So I think Chad is done. You mentioned that you're good friends with both Kaitlyn, and you were on the season with JoJo. So you had two past bachelorettes that you were friendly with. Is there anything that our audience and Bachelor Nation as a whole would like to know about either of those two? Because honestly, those were probably two of the best bachelorettes ever. They seemed awesome, and they're both in great relationships right now. Do you keep in touch with those guys?
Yeah, I fully agree. They are two of the best bachelorettes. I think, especially with both of them, they are very much unapologetically themselves, which is what was so great. And they're the same person they are like in real life is what they are on the television show, which was like very refreshing as well. I met Sean when he was with Kaitlyn, and again, like a couple that just is so ridiculously happy and like in love with each other. And I mean, if you watch Kaitlyn's Snapchats, you know that they like complement each other very well. So yeah, I mean, JoJo and Kaitlyn are definitely my favorite bachelorettes. I think what people don't like, sometimes when people are like, oh, they made the wrong decision, they did this wrong. I think at the end of the day, like they do care about every single guy that like walked into the mansion, and it's definitely hard because they do have to find like the one, and no matter what, people will be upset type thing.
I have a question for you, Jamie. Do you think that you are done with all the Bachelor stuff, or would you go back on another season of The Bachelor as a contestant, or would you go back to Paradise? What are your thoughts on that?
Never say never. I am in like the years of yes in my life, so anything that happens, I'm just saying yes to. Plus, I wouldn't want to like say I would never do a show and then do one, because that would be uncomfortable.
Right.
So no promises, but we hope to definitely see you back on the Bachelor universe sometime soon. And as you mentioned with Kaitlyn and JoJo, obviously finding love in that way can work. So we would definitely wish you the best. Is there anything that you would like to promote, or do you want to just tell our audience about your social media handles so they can keep in touch with you?
Yeah, my social media on Instagram and Twitter, I can be found at Jr. Letain. And I just tweet weird stuff. No, thank you guys. I'm actually doing a program in TV and radio at NATE in Edmonton, Alberta. So this is counting as my homework right now.
Oh, nice. And maybe you
Perfect.
can tell some of your friends, like Kayla and some others who haven't come on, that they should come on, and it's real fun and easy, and they don't have to answer anything they don't want to answer.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Cool. Well, hey, Jamie, thank you so much for your time today. It was super fun chatting with you, and we look forward to making it happen again sometime soon.
Definitely. Thank you. Have a good one.
Today's episode of the E&G podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Clothing by Owl. All you Bachelor fans will recognize this name, as they are the company behind the hugely popular Wine Bachelor and Yoga Pants tank top. What you may not know is that they give back a percentage of every item sold to Animal Rescue, and that notable Bachelor alums like JoJo Fletcher, Kaitlyn Bristowe, Lauren Bushnell, Ben Higgins, and Nick Vale are all huge supporters. We're happy to offer our listeners 20% off when you visit clothingbyowl.com. Simply add the discount code ENG, that's EANDG, to save on all your Bachelor gear. And be sure to follow them on social media at Clothing by Owl.
Jeff and I are doggy dads, which is why we're so excited to be partnering with our newest sponsor, Puppies Make Me Happy. They have a super simple mission: to make the happiest clothes on earth, which they do. And we know our listeners will love this brand just as much as we do. Plus, we're excited to help spread a little happiness ourselves by offering listeners 20% off all merchandise by using discount code ENG. That's EANDG at checkout. Make sure to follow them on Instagram at Puppies Make Me Happy